let me go. I'm just going to tell you really quickly. This is the kind of the walkthrough of what we're going to do as we talk about this book right here. This is the Rock Your Class Creatively Impactful Teacher Rockstar Tips from A to Z. I guess we could practice with the questions box. Could you let me know if you actually have a copy of this book already? Yes. Ordered. Cool. That's awesome. Okay. The reason I keep asking this question at the beginning of these webinars is because I don't have a copy of the book. So I'm jealous of all the people that actually have your copy because I don't have my copy. This is a author's proof that I got from the publisher. The publisher is Codebreaker Publishing, but it's not the final copy. It's not the order, the one that like you have when you've ordered. I'm going to give you a general concept introduction, basically, to the book itself. And then I want to just dive right in. If we're going to have some teacher, adult fun time, then we need to share and we need to talk about strategies, and let's lay out some of the stuff that's in there. And with each chapter, you're going to see that there's a rock and reason and rock and requirement. And each chapter starts with a relatable story from my continued years of touring all over the world, but also from crazy stories from the classroom. And those stories parlay into the tips and the strategies that actually come also with QR codes. So if you like an idea, you just go, oh, that's great. I don't really want to work on this. I'm glad there's a QR code. Just swipe the QR code, download the template or lesson plan, and it's done. This book is called Rock Your Class, so it's not hard to imagine what it does. It looks through the lens of the teacher and the rock star, which combined is the teacher rock star. So let's look at the teacher side first. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I have taught K to 12 in pretty much every subject area that you can possibly think of. I've taught math, I've done guidance, I've done French, I've done English, I've done history, I've done tech, computers, a lot in my career. And I bet you a lot of you have had that kind of a hodgepodge mixed experience as well. I can tell you right now that I absolutely earned my stripes as a teacher. This book is filled with ideas that were honed from teaching at quite a few difficult schools or challenging schools, as people like to say, or rough schools, as some people would like to say. And it started right away, right in the beginning of my career. I taught my very first 7 years at a school called Juliet Public School in Stratford, Ontario. And our school was what they called the school on the wrong side of the tracks. There literally was tracks separating the two sides of the city. Now, we loved our students. They were fantastic, but they definitely came from different backgrounds and different pretty tough situations. And so we had our share of challenges at our school, and you can see this in the headlines. Our school is often in the headlines of the newspapers. Here's one that talks about over 900 serious incidents. In fact, it's a significant instances just in 1 year, okay? But this was very common throughout our years that were there. Even there's a quote down there from our superintendent who says that it's just mind-boggling how much time the board spent on our school. And the funny thing was, the school wasn't that big. It was 400 students, but it was a feeder school. So it was all 7s and 8s. You know that can be an interesting group, and then we stuck 400 of them all together. So sometimes it could be a recipe for a challenge. And our problem child school certainly reached crisis points at many different times. We were constantly in paper for different instances that continue to happen with teachers. You just look here at some of the arrows: slashed tires, slashed purses, teacher being chased down the stairs and urinated upon, and just it was a different school. I don't know if any of you guys coach. Coaching was a big thing. Sports was king at this school. But just to give you an idea, when it came time for practices, we would often have 1 or 2 students come up to us and say, "Sir, we can't make practice today because we have to go visit our probie." Our students were being arrested for things like auto theft and for swarming, which is a violent offense, not things like petty theft or shoplifting and things like that. So that was my first 7 years experience. In fact, the teachers that I replaced, they quit after their first year teaching. So rough side of town, rough situation, right? The other side of the lens is the rock star side that completes that whole Hannah Montana combination. Here's a typical example of this Hannah Montana lifestyle that I live. thanks to you, actually. So I'll be teaching on a Monday, and I'll teach right to the bell. And when the bell rings, I will take off to the Detroit airport, Detroit Metropolitan Airport, and I'll take a red eye to wherever the next day's concerts are going to be. So say it's Alaska, for example. So I'll take the red eye to Anchorage, Alaska. And then the Tuesday, while my students are in class, I'm actually in Anchorage, Alaska, doing 2 sold out shows in a theater in Anchorage. And then that evening, I take a red eye back. And in the next morning, Wednesday morning, I'm back teaching again. These experiences have the fact that I've got to do these experiences of touring all over the world, doing shows in theaters and arenas, and like literally Australia, New Zealand, all over the United States, Canada. I performed in China. Just all these experiences have given me a different glimpse into what it is like to motivate preteens, particularly teens, because most of my shows are for teenagers. And if you could probably imagine, when it comes to the music industry, they're probably one of the hardest to please, because if they don't like you, they'll let you know. So I've taken all these experiences doing shows in full theaters and experiences doing teaching in full classrooms and parlayed that into this book with all these tips. It's the combination of the teacher rock star, that lens. And let's face it, we are teacher rock stars, all of us, because we are performers. That's why, of course, administration gives us performance appraisals. It only makes sense. I mean, think about it, right? But in the book, I highlight the mountain of actual teacher rockstar parallels that actually exist. Even create little graphics to show you. I'll share some of that when we delve into the book. But the teacher is the rock star, the colleague is the bandmates, the student is the students are the fan base. Just it goes on and on. Personally, my definition of teacher as rock star is an educator who amplifies student engagement, shakes up learning, and can rock curriculum with content creativity. And I really believe that is all of us. Now, I'm interested in knowing actually where you are in your teacher rock star journey right now. I'm curious what side of the bridge you're on, because we are definitely at a bridge, and we could get into the whole metaphor of this bridge in a lot of different ways, like online learning on one side and in-class learning on the other, with the learning gap in the middle. Boy, we can talk about that, can't we? But seriously, when you go onto Amazon, if you're looking for an educational book, one of the first things that you will look for, are you concentrating right now on surviving distance and online learning? Is that where you're at right now? Are you somebody who's actually thinking about leadership? You're actually already taking extra AQ courses. I have lots of friends who are taking extra AQ courses because right now they're looking to build their portfolio because they have their eyes on a more educational leadership roles. Is it lesson planning? Are you somebody who perhaps in the beginning of your career, or even you are in the middle, or you're nearing the end of your teaching career, ready to move on to whatever's next, and you're still like, no, give me tools, give me creative ideas. Are you maybe in that basket? Or is classroom management something that's actually something that you would like more tips and conversations about? Because sometimes nobody talks about it. It's just like, just deal with it. Just deal with it. So I'm curious, which of the following, when you look at this 1 through 4, with the distance online learning, professional development for leadership goals, the lesson plans for your toolbox, or classroom management because you're looking for less stress and less mess, applies to you? I'm going to go down into the questions box, just type the numbers. And this is interesting because we really do have a really good mix. And somebody says that number 1 and number 3 are quite tied in. Absolutely, I agree. And then there's definitely some votes for number 4 as well, because, well, first of all, it's already a challenge. Online, you talk about classroom management. What about online management? That's a whole different issue, right? But yes, when we're back in the classroom, it's number 1. Basically, what's good news is that's exactly what this book does. This book bridges all 4 gaps. It covers all 4 areas for us. This is the walkthrough that we're going to do. So we're going to crack right into the book. I don't want to waste any time. I want to look right into the book. I want to share different ideas with you. The first thing I'd like us to do is we're going to look at the table of contents and the chapter titles. It's A to Z, so there's 26 chapters naturally. I'm curious to know what titles pop out to you. So here's the inside of the book. We're going to go right to the table of contents. I am going to stop though. I'm going to stop, slam the brakes, because I do have to highlight the dedication, because it's dedicated to my wife, Carrie, who is amazing, who right now, as we speak, is working in a downtown Detroit hospital. And she is amazing, has always supported me. She allowed me to come see you. If you're a French, English, or Spanish teacher, you can thank her, because she is the one who allows me to do all those crazy things and to come see you. So I got to stop there because that's an important part of the book to me. After you go through the forward and the beginning, the forward, I do have to thank Dr. Michael Salvatore. If you're from Ontario, you probably know that name, or you recognize that name, because he signs our Ontario College of Teachers certificates every year. He's the head of OCT. So he actually wrote the forward and endorsed the book, which is really cool. But let's look at these chapters. When you look at these chapter titles, I'm going to go to the questions box. Tell me which, without even knowing what these are about, which titles kind of jump out at you. Because I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the book, and then at the end, I'm going to ask you to pick a couple chapters, and then I'm going to read from them, just to give you an idea of just a little bit of them, not the whole chapter, but just give you an idea of these funny, crazy stories. So let's see. We have, that's a wrap, Inspector Gadget, a yuck marking, yes. Expert help is here, yes. Undercover agent, okay. Why, oh, why? And then there's some doubles, candy curriculum. Any more? It needs more art. Okay, yep, that's a good one too. So we're gonna do a quick walkthrough, because I think it's really important that you see how it's set up. People are calling it like a chicken soup for the teacher soul, the way it's set up, because it's really easy. Basically, if you're in a situation where you're like, classroom management's my thing, okay, well then you go to the specific ones like this one that help with classroom management. If it's the filling your teacher toolbox with lesson plans, then it's gonna be some of those other creative looking titles. You can pretty much guess where it's going. If it's about even stress and things like that, you're going to jump right to chapters, probably chapter 8 should be the first one, which is a healthy teacher self. So they all start off with a rock and reason and a rock and requirement. A lay of the land for when we get back to class is a really, really good one. This is about the physical setup of your class, whether you actually have your own classroom or whether you share a classroom. It has all the tips about how to set up the class, and even if you have to share, how to set it up quickly and then return the desks back for your partner or partners. I'll just highlight really quickly. One of the ideas that I do is Paris. I change my classroom into Paris. And what I do is I have the River Seine flowing through the middle, and I have my classes separated into groups, and each group is an arrondissement, which means a neighborhood or a quartier of Paris. And the students, when they walk in, they go to their mailbox, they get their task, their work for the day, and then they go to their group, and then they just figure it out, whether they're grocery shopping that day, or they're moving, or they're buying furniture, or they're looking for a job, or there's always a different task. There's a lot of examples there. Be the learning is one of my favorites, because basically it is my philosophy. No matter what subject you teach, whether it's math, French, English, I believe that if you be the subject, the students will learn the subject. If the students be the subject, the students will learn the subject. Raise your electronic hands if you believe in that being the learning is a great way to engross students in actual learning. Okay, cool. All right, so there are absolutely a lot of examples. This one here is a history one, just to give you a taste. And then there's QR codes, so you can download the templates and the lesson plans immediately. What's great is you can manipulate them no matter what subject area you're teaching too. Candy curriculum, tapping into what kids love. Kids love candy, so do some adults, right? So these are different ideas, and it includes the big one, which is the Skittles activity is a great activity to engage students, again, no matter what subject area. There's science examples, math examples, geography examples, and they're all editable, not edible, but editable for us to use. Drum roll of the tongue is a lot of fun too. This one is about alliteration. So here I just stop on such a small point, but it's such a powerful point. In the music industry, alliteration is used in songs for catchy hooks to get things stuck in your head. This lays out exactly step-by-step what to do to use alliteration for course content. And what's really cool is these ideas, you can actually turn them on your students. You never even have to do any of these ideas yourself. You can actually have your students do these ideas the way that it's laid out. Executive pen exercise has students doing a Fortune 500 executive activity that will absolutely have them properly pronouncing and doing perfectly wonderful presentations. Lots of examples, QR codes as well. Funny Makes Sunny is all about comedy. I fancy myself a funny person, but everybody tells me I'm not. I keep trying and I will keep trying, but this actually methodically breaks down what is comedy, what makes something funny, and how you can actually pull curriculum content, whether from your curriculum expectations or from a textbook or wherever your unit that you're doing before you start, in order to set up jokes and humorous situations. Because with comedy comes learning. Think of the funniest moments you've had in your life. Those are the ones that actually stick. Even thinking back in school, I bet you had some fun or funny moments, and those stuck in your mind. Now, this chapter actually tells you how you can manipulate those things. And the point is, it's really important to mention, is that when you talk about classroom management, it's not just about the setup of the classroom and things like that. I have no discipline issues in my classroom, and I've taught at some amazingly rough and difficult schools. But the reason is because I keep my students so engaged, so busy in doing what they're doing, that they don't have time to misbehave. We'll touch on that more. Guitar solo is really important because I need to point this out. Even though it's teacher as rock star, this book is not telling you that you're a performer and that you need to stand in front of the class and perform. It's actually the very opposite. It's the point that we are teacher rock stars. We're so creative that we actually engage students to the point where gradual release of responsibility means that they're going to be doing guitar solos in your class, showing course curriculum content, knowledge, and complete understanding through individual efforts of their own. Healthy teacher self, heal thy teacher self. So incredibly important. Has some stories about my personal life that I've never shared with anybody, not in the Accidental Rockstar documentary, not in interviews on television or magazines. This is the first time that these have ever appeared. So I share them with you there. Inspector Gadget is about using technology, apps and things like that. However, the question is, when it comes to apps, what app is apt? And so what this chapter does is it breaks down how to judge whether a new technological device or app or thing is appropriate for what you're trying to get across. So it helps you keep in mind your curriculum expectations as you consider using these things or trying them out. Just be positive is not always an easy thing. I have people who've been reading the books and some of them saying that this is one of their favorite chapters, which is really, really cool. I definitely believe I'm a positive person just by nature. I think life is amazing. That's why I love being with you guys doing our adult teacher time right now. But this book highlights about how to keep things positive, even in moments when things aren't so positive. And basically the key of that is to turn around everything and make the positivity actually come from the students. So they're so busy doing positive things on a positive mission type thing that there is no room for the negative. It's a good concept. Keep up is so important. This is about understanding the culture of our students. For example, I've done some webinars. I don't know if you're a French teacher, you might have seen on TikTok. So TikTok type teaching, not telling you to join up to TikTok. It's basically telling you that if you filter what is so catchy about TikTok to the students, you can actually twist it around and you can hand deliver challenges for them to create their own TikTok type videos or do their own type of challenges that's related to your content curriculum. And parents, I'll have a blast watching their children doing these things at home, by the way. Let me spell it out. Okay, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Sometimes you have to think the people that used to teach before us back in Socrates' day and back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, they might have had some things right. And there is something about spelling that's just pretty cool. Now, I'm not talking about bringing back old days of dictation and spelling bees. That's not it at all. It's about challenges related to spelling that can actually have your students think more deeply about your content area, particularly key concepts and expressions and structures. Mind time is something that I discovered. Maybe I should read the mind time one. Somebody remind me of that one. That's a good story. That I learned on the road and I learned in the classroom. Unfortunately, where I lost my voice and I had to teach without being able to speak, it inspired me to create this chapter and the template that comes with it, to the point where It's all done for you to the point where you could actually hand it to the students and have them do mind time to show their knowledge. Needs more art. How many of you believe in multiple intelligences? I know I do. In art, I'm a stick figure drawer, but that doesn't matter. In this chapter, I lay out a whole bunch of ways that you can use art to cover your curriculum expectations. I keep mentioning those because, well, the curriculum expectation police are always around, right? So I want to make sure that you're covering those things. Out the door, well, we're living it right now. We're no longer in the classroom. And we're breaking the barriers of isolation all the time with our Kahoots and our interviews and online concerts that we're doing here with Rock Your Class. This is exactly what you're doing right now, all the creative stuff that you're coming up with your students. I've never received compliments from parents like I am during this time now. Crazy in my 27 years teaching. But when we do get back to class, this chapter has a lot of really cool ideas about how to get out of those four walls, getting them outside, in the gym, in the hallways, in the library, lots of really cool ideas. Playing with matches is a great way as a teacher rock star to set things on fire, but it's not about matches, it's about pairing, about having the students' brains, things make sense in the brain by making matches. Lots of activities, lots of examples, and QR codes. Okay, secret. I wrote this book to finally organize my own thoughts as well. Like I finally relented and said, okay, I will write a book. It was never on my wish list. It was not on my bucket list. But I said, yes, I will do this because it's going to organize my thoughts. So now for the rest of my career, I can go, okay, this class needs something different. And I'll just open up the book and go, oh, Legos. Yes, yes, right? So just looking at just Legos there. But it gives you the tools too. Don't just tell me what to do, give me, okay? Question everything. It's the number one thing in life is you ask questions and that's how you learn and you grow and you advance and you succeed. Well, same principle applying to this. So maybe mind time and question everything are two chapters that I probably should read. Somebody could remember that. Lots of examples there. Routines. If you teach teenagers, you know that the more they are rooted in routines, the better it'll be with your classroom management. I talk about how to run things right from beginning to the end. And you can see this image about bell work. I haven't been highlighting the images, but there's these little images that are on the first page of every chapter. Some of them are very uplifting too. So like chicken soup for the soul. You can look at them and it give you a smile to start your day off. But a lot of them get right to the point, like this one here. Bell work is like the opening song of a concert. The right choice can start things off on a high note. Believe me, when you're doing concerts, you have to start off with a really good energetic song to let everybody know this is what it's going to be like for the rest of the show. Same thing in class. So routines talks about amazing bell work, easy to do to set them off. How many of you have had that experience where your students, when the bell rings, goes, "Oh, miss, sir, is the period, it's over, it's already over? Oh, wow, that went by fast." Raise your electronic hand if you love when students say, that was fast. Well, the routines thing, they get those comments all the time for that reason. Set the stage is about simulating real life things. So we talked about being the learning. This one is about setting the stage to simulating real life things. Kind of like I showed you how I turned my room into the actual city of Paris. But this goes way beyond that, way beyond that. There's so many examples. That's a wrap. Okay, so the fact is there's nothing magical about what I get to do as Etienne when I do my French or Spanish or English songs to help kids learn languages. If anybody's my age, you might remember Schoolhouse Rock. That was the same type of principle. Again, I think that probably Plato used to rap his philosophical thoughts to everybody just so they get stuck in their head. We know that rhyme and rap works. However, some of us can't do that. We're just not, that inclined for it. So what do? Do we just skip this chapter? No. This thing will tell you exactly what you need to do to actually have your students come up with raps about the unit you're covering, your content curriculum, even before you start your unit. Undercover agent talks about actually dressing up. So coming to class dressed up as whatever, a historical figure, a mathematician, a scientist, whatever subject area that you teach. Give some good examples. Violence in the classroom, not violence, it's violence in the classroom. Talks about using music. I'll use music, everything from classical and opera to death metal in my French classes, depending on how I want to literally control my students. On stage as a performer, I can control an audience of 5,000 people and I can do a really energetic song and go right to a slow love song and then go right back to a hard rock song. Like it's the way you control, and it's the music that's really doing it. Well, the same thing can actually happen in the classroom. So lots of tips about that. Why oh why concentrates on the most important of the question everything segment, which is the question why. How many times do we hear students go, why do I have to learn this? This has nothing to do with my present or future life. So let's eliminate that why by putting the why out right in the beginning so that it's very, very clear. And again, it leads you through that if you've never experienced it. It gives you lots of examples. Here's some for math, science, geography. Expert help is here is about the use of guest speakers, which we're really learning a lot about with our online time that we're doing during our quarantining here. We can continue that with online guest speakers and in-person guest speakers. We can't possibly know everything about our subject areas. So to answer that question, why, let's bring in people who live the subject area. It just makes things so much easier. Yuck marking. All right. Raise your electronic hands if marking is one of the banes of your teaching existence. I didn't want to just write a book because the publishing company even did talk about suggesting breaking my book into different books. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have one book that basically has everything I kind of wished I knew in Teachers College done like right there. But even as an experienced teacher, that I can go, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. That's perfect. I got to do that with my grade whatever class or my fourth period class or whatever, right? But I want to go deeper so that you've got the health stuff covered. You've got a lot of these things, but yuck marking. Now, I love this down here. If you've taught even 6 months in your career, you probably already started your own tests marked to rewards eaten ratio. Okay. How many people do that where you reward yourself in some way as you're going through a pile of marking? I'm going to go to the questions box. I'm going to grab a sip of water. Let me know, what is your reward? What do you divide and reward yourself with? I'm curious. Thank you to somebody who just goes, they just ordered the book. Wow, that was very nice. Thank you. What is your reward? So mine, as I put down there, was chips. Some people are putting wine, and then they put red to be particular. Ice cream. Ice cream is very popular. When I do these webinars, people say ice cream. Another vote for chips. Yes, because there's so many choices, isn't there? Going outside. So hiking, exercise, popcorn, Netflix. Yes, you reward yourself with a little bit of binge watching, right? Or maybe you mark while you're binge watching. I'm not sure. But this whole idea of rewards to marking is a survivable tactic. It's a way that we can keep fresh while we're marking from the first person to last, because we want to be fair and equitable. And so this chapter actually covers different strategies in order to be fair and equitable all the way through. But I'm not giving you much insight to the book, and it's not because, oh, I want you to buy it and I don't want to give it away. It's just that there's not that much time in an hour session to explain everything. But if I could just stop here, I would stop here and say something to you guys, okay? It's this. Raise your electronic hand if you have heard about project-based learning or understanding by design or backwards design. How many have went to workshops, heard about the idea of before you teach, you pick a project, you in the class pick a project. We're gonna do X by the time we're done this unit. This is the project you guys are working on, all right? Let's talk about what you're gonna do at the end. Before I even teach you word one, okay? This is what we're gonna do. And then when you start the unit, you're always keeping in mind what the end goal is, right? Raise your electronic hand if you have never considered the same thing for your marking. This chapter highlights and step-by-step explains how to backwards design your marking. So instead of backing ourselves up into a corner where we're going, oh my God, I gotta mark all this, we actually start from the beginning part and we consider what we're going to assess, how we're going to assess, what kind of types of assessment that we're going to use. And it talks all about assessment evaluation in there for you. So I'm glad to see some hands, because me too. I'd never used to consider that, and I'd back myself into a corner year after year, decade after decade in that situation. This here helps you walk right through and prepare yourself so you have less time on marking and more time for yourself. So thank you for the person who just said that's awesome. It's really, really important. This whole book is designed for one big thing. Teacher rock stars need to take care of themselves. So all the strategies are to make your classroom situation better. The classroom management to make your stress levels way low. The chapters on taking care of yourself to take care of yourself. But the idea is spending less time on things that are not necessary. So you can spend more time on you, and you can then spend more time with your family and friends. And as I like to joke, if you don't like your family and friends, this will give you more time to find better family and friends. And finally, zest to compete. Zest to compete is all about using competition in the class for higher learning. However, put the brakes on. Remember that school I told you I taught at for my first 7 years teaching? I learned very, very quickly that part of the classroom management issues that we have is when we feed as teachers into the pecking order that seems to exist among students. You know, this kid is not as cool as that kid, and this kid's not as athletic as that kid. Quickly, I learned that when you use competition where the class works together against other classes or phantom classes or phantom records or phantom situations where they're just aiming for goals that maybe not even be real, by the way, between you and us, they actually band together, and it is amazing. When I taught at that school, I would teach 5 grade 7 French classes, for example. And so everything I did in class, they did for points, because our school adopted Dr. Fred Jones's positive classroom management. And this, I'm very proud to tell you that this has been talked about as a 2020 version of that. So this is basically like a program. I could come to your school, share with all your teachers about this on a classroom management level. And what I would do is the classes would compete for points in the class, and everything they did, handing out paper, doing work, playing games and activities, work towards points, and they were working against the other classes. And at the end of the year, what did you think that they won? Did they give them a pizza party? Did they get candy? No, they got nothing. I put the winning class's name on a piece of Bristol board and I put it up on my wall. And they were only out of school for the next year, but they would come visit me and they would go, or unless they were in my grade 8 homeroom, because I was also a grade 8 homeroom teacher, but they would see that up on the wall and they would go, that was enough. That's all they needed. That's all they needed. No discipline issues, okay? None. It goes over all these types of games and competitions, and then it ends with my puns. The publisher and the editors did not like that I was putting so many jokes and puns, so they had them removed, and then I had the permission to put them back, which I'm really happy to say. I got to put them back at the end of the book in the outro. So if you like corny puns, please head over to the outro at the end. All right, let's go back to the slide presentations. So you looked at the titles. I'm going to ask you right now. I know what I said was a big promise. I mean, how in the world can one book bridge all those gaps? But can you be honest with me? Just give me a yes. Honestly, I would like to know. Do you see how that big promise that I start off with, this book actually does cover all those things? Type a yes or a no. You're allowed to say no. We're having an adult conversation here. In the questions box for me, and let me know if you see exactly what I'm talking. Yes, so we got a lot of yeses. So thank you. Yeah, bridges all these gaps. And when we look at the titles, I talked about this already, of course, as a combination between a chicken soup for the soul meets classroom management 2020. I did promise you that I would read from a couple stories, so I will do that right now. What chapters did you want me to read from? Okay, so somebody asked me. So somebody said, okay, a lot of people are saying Q&M worked. Somebody asked for please the competition one. So I'm going to do that. I'll do the competition one, and then maybe I'll go to the mime time one. They all have different stories. Yeah, I'll do the mime time. So we'll do one story from the classroom, one story from the road. Okay, so this is Zest to Complete, page 122. Okay, sometimes I feel like my students all come from the same nation, the nation of procrasta. That's one of my puns. Ha 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 ha. Procrastination. Anyways, they hand in assignments late, and at times they're very hard to motivate. However, I find that when I add a bit of competitive fun into the mix of my teaching, students become much more engaged and they're learning. That old school that I was telling you about, we would have competitions to see how fast and how well students could sing French songs. I talked earlier in the book about a song I did called Mot d'Action Air. It goes to We'll Rock You by Queen. And it's for ER verbs. So if you're not a French teacher, it's just an ER verb song. I covered it in the That's a Rap chapter. I remember one time I had a competition between all my grade 7 classes to see what full class could sing it the fastest. At the end of the song, I omitted the word hey. This song leads you where you want to go, hey, mot d'action, and you feel like saying hey, but there's no hey at the end. This was designed so that the song would not end with a big chant of hey, but instead a wall of silence. That was the purpose at the end of the song. When getting caught up in the singing of the song, it's hard not to yell out hey, trust me, even though there's no hey there. Knowing that it was hard not to add the extra word, I decided to spice things up. I told each class that if they added the hey at the end, their attempt at the record would not count. So nobody could say hey. So they just sing it really, really fast, really, really loud, but nobody could say hey. Even if they had broken the record on my time watch, would not count. Any extra hey would negate that attempt. In one instance, during the competition, an over-exuberant student in my period 3 class yelled out, hey, at the end, right at the end, when the class was on a total record-crushing speed run. One particularly competitive and larger boy in the classroom got really angry at the other student and yelled out, oh, Jason, nice going. You're dead after school, man. Now, as a teacher, of course, you can imagine how I felt. This warmed my heart. That's right. Imagine my students were actually going to get together after school to discuss what went on in class. I mean, what a success that day. Okay, so that's just an opening story of what they're like, and then it moves on to other stories, and then it goes parlays into the strategies, the how-tos, the actual, let's get to the nuts and bolts, and let me give you some QR codes so I can send you on your way. I got a couple LOLs, I got a haha, so thank you. That's kind of cool. All right, let's go to Mime Time. I was nearing the end of a 3-month straight concert tour when it happened. I was ready to start a show. The music began playing. I brought the microphone to my mouth and no sound escaped. I had lost my voice. Fortunately, just as our students can surprise us in class, the thousands of students at the concert stepped up big time. There was nothing I could do. I just pointed the mic outwards to the audience and they began singing the song for me. They continued singing for the rest of the concert, track after track. A few years later, a similar experience happened, but this time in the classroom. I started to teach a class when my voice gave out. This time I had no mic to point out towards my students. Even if I did, would they even know what to do or say? I was in the middle of a new lesson, so what was I to do? I snapped into mime time mode. I pointed to objects, I used gestures, I wrote keywords on the board. I did anything that I could to possibly get my point across. These techniques turned out to be silent but deadly. I challenged myself and, well, deadly accurate. I challenged myself and my students to see how long I could actually keep this lesson going. And I did it. I finished the 10 minutes that were left in class, handed out the follow-up activity work, and they went at it. It worked out perfectly. I had discovered a new strategy. And that's where I created the Mime Time template about how you can actually structure it, but you can actually turn it on the students and have them show course content knowledge using the same actual tool. So that is kind of cool. So that's the kind of things that the book is like literally full of. You'll have it for the rest of your career and you probably won't even use all the strategies that are there. That's what I wanted. And it's good to have that because right now we're living in the world of, oh my gosh, this is all too much. What stress, huh? Right? I'm glad because the publisher and I we're both discussing, should this book be released now or later? But the fact is there's so many tools that you can do online right now with the book that let's do it now. And then when we cross that bridge, we're going to be good because of those QR codes. In fact, you could actually scan a QR code right now with your portable electronic device, and you'll see how quickly the QR codes work. They're fantastic. It doesn't matter what you're looking for, whether it is like lesson planning, for example, whether it is distance and online learning, educational leadership, because the stronger teacher you are, the more confident you'll be in growing. If you want to climb that ladder and go from teacher right to director in 3 weeks, that's what this book does. It's all, no, I'm kidding. Educational methods, little clever ways of trying to do different things, but it's so funny how many of them can be switched and turned around and have the students actually doing it. Professional development, absolutely. School curricula. So basically making sure that you're covering your curriculum, but doing it in a way that also eliminates stress, eliminates classroom discipline issues and things like that. That's what the book is designed for. So I do want to let you know that right now, actually on Amazon's, so I'm happy to see that Amazon's having like COVID sales and things like that on sale, because I've seen prices as low as $18, which is great. The regular price is $24.99, which is really great for all the stuff that you get in it. But if you could do 18, that's even better. A publishing company, Codebreaker Publishing, who produced it, published it, sorry. So I'm a musician, so produce is the key word for me always. But got in there with Amazon and said, no, this has got to be a Prime thing. So it's on Prime, so it's delivered like that. So that's really cool. And it is available on Barnes and Nobles and all those other places like that. And I got to thank those people who said that you purchased the book, or you ordered the book. As you probably saw as we're going through that, the book is bestseller #1 in like over 5 or 6 categories. So I do really thank you, and I'm glad that the book is making a difference already. And again, I'm very jealous because I just can't wait to get my copy. But wait, there's more. Okay, anybody remember like in the 1980s or 90s? Wait, you get a set of Ginsu knives. Please raise your electronic hand and make me not the only person who remembers the Ginsu knives. When I agreed, there's a great backstory to this book. Okay, when I said, okay, yeah, let's do it, I wanted to make sure this was a living book as well. So here's how it's living. First of all, I blog every week. Every week I do a blog. You can check it out. I add strategies, tips, ideas from my crazy years of being a teacher rock star. We are all teacher rock stars. So again, we talk about teacher rock star tips, and it doesn't matter where you are in the journey. This is the key. Because do you see this perpetual teacher exhaustion scale? We start our careers tired, coming out of university. Then we start to get families and children and pets and regular life stresses, and we're just tired right through. And then what happens when you're done your career? You're retired. So it just really doesn't end. So I wanted to make sure that I was supporting everybody who wants to be part of this kind of teacher rock star community always. And not only are we doing it through that, but we're also doing it through the online webinars like these, like this one here. This, of course, is a book talk, but I do strategy webinars, and I just like to get us together. And then I also do the things with our students, whether it's live interviews and concerts, or whether it's like online concerts and interviews, or online games of Kahoot, which is great because every student gets a Kahoot certificate for participating, just like you'll get a certificate of participation for PD hour, a PD credit hour, for your time here chilling with me. But I wanted it to be more than a book, and it really is. So you kind of get this whole thing where it's a proven system, right? There's like a trial and error, research-based proven strategies are only used in this book and in my classroom, but it's the community feel. If you haven't already, please join the Rock Your Class Facebook group. You can find it. Maybe you might have it in the link in the email that you get sent at the end of this. But also we get to rely on expert mentorship. The book itself acts as a mentor. Like I said, we can open up and just fulfill a need. We have different needs, different times. We have ebbs and flows with our career, right? So those things are there, but the QR codes, that's the extra stuff. But also the conferences and the PD, and I do coaching as well, but the conferences in particular. So for example, if you're a French teacher, we have one coming June 13th. You can come, we're having a virtual online conference. But if you teach other subjects too, we're doing lots of different virtual Rock Your Class type events. Definitely feel free to join us. So this is my goal for the book. I would be honored if you would help me with this goal. My goal is to get this book into the hands of not just us, the teacher rock stars, but also your principal rock stars, your superintendent rock stars, okay? I want to get this to the district level because you might think that performing in front of like thousands of screaming students and stuff like that is my favorite thing to do. Of course, it's fun and it's amazing, but my favorite thing to do is to be with you, my colleagues. Get my colleagues up doing fun, crazy things and realizing that we are in this together and that we are kind of the backbone of society. Don't tell anybody I said that, but we really, really are. And that we are amazing people. That's why we are Teacher Rock Stars. And I just want to celebrate that together. So whether through it's your board NTIP program, or maybe your school, your principal would like to have me come doing general PD on classroom management strategies using the book and all the tools that are in there. I'm totally there. And then faculties of education too, which I already have some invites, which I'm really excited about. And I've got faculties that are starting to put on the recommended reading list or on the reading lists. So that is really cool. So definitely tell people about this book. If you find that there was anything that was interesting to you and useful here today, know that the book is just exponentially filled with so many things. I don't know what your poison is, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or what it possibly is, but let's get connected. I'm going to now just go to the questions box. I want to thank you so very much. If this is something that you think would be useful for your staff, please reach out to me. I would love to start a conversation between myself, you, and your administration, whether you're vice principal, principal, or superintendent, about really doing some energetic PD. I believe that we need to be engaged, having fun, moving. Even the teachers taught 35 years. I get them up and doing things and having a blast and living that same experience that we do in concert with the fans, and the same experience that I get to have with my students in class when I try all these really, really cool things. So I would love to be able to do that with you. A really good excuse. Then we can go to dinner after. That'd be awesome. Then we can talk shop some more or just chill. Anyways, thank you so much for joining. And if you are going to share the book, thank you so very much in advance. Just send people the link, rockyourclass.com, and it has everything about the book that you could share with your admin. Thank you so very much for your time, and I appreciate it so very much. Appreciate it so very much. Oh, thank you. Somebody says thank you for not waiting to release the book, but for releasing it now. So yes, that's definitely Codebreaker Publishing definitely has a big hand in that as well. So thanks to them. And you guys have a great rest of your evening.